All right, here we go. We're just going to wait for people to start showing up and kind of hang out and see how this goes. Once we start getting some people hanging out and questions come in and whatnot, we'll go with it. Right, we'll get going here in just a minute. This is my first time doing something like this, and honestly, I'm not really quite sure what to expect. So it's kind of an experiment, but I'm excited about it, and don't really have a time frame. The plan was to go on this for about an hour, and if we last that long, cool. If we don't, not a big deal. Just happy to be out, hanging out with people, and if you give me like 2 seconds, I'm gonna go check one thing, and I'll be right back. Hopefully that's a little bit better. I am streaming from my bedroom, and my router is a little bit further away, so hopefully the internet doesn't cause any problems. But thanks for coming and hanging out, guys. I really appreciate you coming. Ask your questions, things that you might be interested in about my channel, about backcountry exposure. One of the fun things that we just did is a collaboration. So I contacted a bunch of other YouTube channels and set up a collaboration that was our top 3 backpacking must-haves. And if you haven't watched those videos from all of the other channels, which those channels were my channel and then also Jack's Drinkwater and Rev Hiker Outdoors and Tim Watson and Corbin with the Wasatch Gear Review, and then also Utah Steve Outdoors. So there were 6 channels, and yeah, the collaboration was a lot of fun. All of those videos turned out really well, and I'm excited about the community that kind of gathered around that collaboration. It was a lot of fun. So if you guys have questions while I'm standing here, this is supposed to be like a Q&A video, and so there's quite a few people tuning in right now, which is exciting. I'm happy to see that. This isn't a total bust. If you're just now coming along to watch, this was meant to be kind of an experiment, and a big reason that I'm even trying this is YouTube offers it. It's something that is like easy to do. It took a little bit of effort to make it happen, but so I thought I would just try to utilize it as a method of communicating with you guys and see if you guys are interested in this kind of thing. You can let me know what kind of content you like from my channel. There's all sorts of things. In fact, that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you to maybe start the chat a little bit is those of you that are watching that follow my channel and watch my videos. I'm curious to know what kind of content do you enjoy the most, or what gear are you interested in me reviewing? I've got a lot of things that I'm excited to start reviewing. And then any suggestions that you have. I'm totally open to people giving feedback on things that they wish they would see differently on my channel, or that I could do differently. So, how is the stream going? Is it choppy? I'm not really not really certain, but haven't had any questions come through. So let's do this. Let's see. So some of the other things that that are coming up on the channel. Looks like the internet might be having a little bit of a struggle here. There we go. So some of the things that are coming up on the channel are, I was able to get a bunch of really cool gear from some friends of mine at Goal Zero, and one of the products that I am like super excited about is this little guy. Now this is the Goal Zero Lighthouse Micro. Super cool. Little tiny lantern that has like 150 lumens of power, and then it's also a flashlight, which is 120 lumens. Really exciting little light that is really tiny. I mean, it's maybe 3 inches tall, and really cool. Like, very excited about it. Looks like I need to make an adjustment. So it looks like I'm just having some problems with the internet. It seems really glitchy. So what I'm going to do is just hang out for a second. All right, guys. There's only a couple people watching now. I am so sorry. This is my first time trying this. I appreciate you being patient, and I'm just trying to. All the settings and things don't seem to be working super well, so I apologize if it's really glitchy. Let me know if it's better right now. But yeah, Gilbert, the collaboration was a ton of fun, and looks like you said the great ideas, and everyone who shared, yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, keep the questions coming in. It looks like things are going a little bit better. So Jeremy, you still on? If so, let me know how the stream's going. If it's still glitchy or anyway. So to get back to just some of the products and things that I'm excited about, I've got, like I said, this Goal Zero Lighthouse Micro. I'm excited to get this out into the field and start testing it. And my plan is to actually head up the canyon this coming Saturday and to go do a little bit of filming and do some gear reviews at that time as well. So let's see. So somebody's asking, where do I get my gear? So some of it I get from the companies contacting me, and they actually are sending me the gear to review. And I do get contacted off and on from different brands, but I do have a friend that works at Goal Zero, and he was able to let me take some of this gear for testing, which is really awesome. And then I also purchase a lot of the gear that I have. So some of it is stuff that is given to me for review purposes, and then other is gear that I purchase for my own personal system that I'm really excited about. But a lot of times, yeah, cool. Thanks, Tim. I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, a lot of times, like the gear that I am offered for reviews is not always something that fits my channel or that I want, and so I've done like some Amazon reviews and stuff for it that way. But I don't always take the gear that's given to me. But man, hopefully this will get a little bit better. It's saying the stream health is pretty poor. Cool. So somebody else has asked, have you tried fitting a bear can into your Exos 38? And the answer to that is no, because here in Utah, there aren't what am I trying to say? Regulations that require you to use a bear canister or a bear bag like you would find in California. So I don't have a specific need to have a bear canister. So I would imagine that knowing the size of a bear canister, it's not going to fit in the Exos 38. So it's hard for me to say. I think you would need at least a 40-liter bag to be able to get that to work properly. Somebody else is asking, have you used Ultimate Directions Fast Packs yet? No, it's not something I'm actually super familiar with. So, Jeremy, I'm not super sure how to answer that. So guys, what I'm going to try to do is move locations. I'm going to move from the bedroom closer to my router and see if I get a better connection that way. So stay put and we will see if this works any better. Just walking through the house. All right, hopefully that's a little bit better, but yeah, guys, I apologize for the stream. I'm out with the family now, and I've got my daughter that wants to hang out and listen and watch. All right, guys, I'm back. Let's see if this is any better. Change some more settings. We'll see what happens here. But yeah, keep the questions coming. So somebody's asking, have you ever used a tarp instead of a tent? Um, yes. In fact, I used a tarp on a trip that I took down into the Paria River Canyon in southern Utah, northern Arizona, and all 5 nights of that trip, I slept under a tarp with like 5 other people, and really great experience. I like tarps. I like how minimalist they are and how simple they are, and just the exposure to the elements in the sense that you're not confined within a bunch of walls of a tent. So yeah, tarps are great, and I've used several different brands of tarps, and yeah, I really like them. So yeah, guys, keep the questions coming. This is a lot of fun. I think I figured out. YouTube's telling me that the stream health is all green and good and healthy, and let's see. So somebody's asking, what is your go-to shelter setup in high elevation climates like the Uinta Mountains or the Wind River Ranges? So really for me, like, I prefer just a standard 3-season tent. Something that is going to obviously be really strong in the wind. So I mean, really any tent that I've taken in the Uintas has been like a nice shelter. I haven't spent any time in the Wind River Ranges, so it's not something I'm super familiar with. Looks like the stream is dying a little bit again. I'm sorry if it's buffering. But basically, I take a 3-season tent, and then I've got a kind of insulated or a higher R value sleeping pad, and I like to use the air chamber pads as opposed to like a closed cell foam pad, and then typically a 30-degree bag, and that way I'm keeping things nice and light, and it's not crazy heavy, or it's something that I know will handle the weather changes, especially in the Uintas. Like, you will get 80-degree days, and then the next morning it could have snowed. Like, it's just crazy the temperature changes, especially because you're at like 10,000 feet in a lot of those areas. So yeah, that's a really good question. Hopefully, Jeremy, I answered that. I don't really like to use a tarp or anything when I'm up in the Uintas. Um, Right now, my preferred tent is, which is a question that is coming through. My preference is either my Sierra Designs Flashlight 1, or I have a new tent from Paria Outdoor Products, the Bryce 2-person tent, and I was honestly really impressed with the performance of that tent. Which I'm getting a question about Paria Outdoor Products right now. So Paria, I was really impressed with the performance of that tent. It's not the ideal like setup for me, because I like to have 2 vestibules or just 2 doors in general. And so having the 1 door in the front makes it a little bit more difficult. But the Bryce tent was an impressive tent, and it was a tent that was sent to me and for testing and reviewing and such. But I seriously love that thing. Just a really great price point, and the fact that that tent is around 3.5 pounds or just under 4 pounds, and even lighter without the footprint that's included, which a lot of times you can get away without the footprint because it does have a 70D polyester floor to it, so it's really strong. I'm getting dizzy. Anyway, it's really strong. It's a nice tent, and yeah, I definitely would recommend the Paria Outdoor Products. So the Soul Escape Bivy is actually honestly something that I'm not ever had any experience with. I have been on some trips with some people that use that as their bivy sack. I spent some time in the desert, and one of the guys that I was with, he used a Soul Escape bivy, but I personally don't like bivy sacks because they make me feel super claustrophobic, and the constraint and just the breathability of them isn't super great either. So it's not something that I love. Um, so I'm getting a comment that says if the video is cutting in and out, oh, it might be for somebody else. Do I own any military surplus gear? No. The military type gear is not something that's ever been part of my backpacking system or anything that I've been really interested in. Now, I will say that in recent months, I've become more intrigued or excited about bushcraft, which I know does not like totally fall into military surplus type stuff, but I've really focused heavily on becoming an ultralight backpacker, and now I'm getting really interested in bushcraft, and the bushcraft type stuff is something that I'm excited to start trying and start collecting knives and just those skills and techniques and things to be able to go out into the backcountry. So I'm excited about that. Let's see. Here's a question of any trips planned. I do have a trip planned for an overnight winter camp out after Christmas. So I had a really busy season of work with a lot of things going on. And now, sorry, I got distracted. And now I've got a little bit more time on my hands, and so I am going to be going on an overnight trip to test out some gear and do some filming, do some reviews and things. That's kind of all I have planned right now because coming up in March, my second child is going to be born, and at that time, all of my attention is going to be focused on that. I do have something planned way down the line in August with some friends of mine to go into the Uinta Mountains here in Utah and do a big, massive loop to Red Castle and then to Kings Peak, which is the tallest peak here in Utah. It's just over 13,000 feet, and I've never done Kings Peak, so that is something that I'm planning as well. But I don't have a lot of stuff planned. I'm planning to have a baby. That's what's happening. An ultralight bushcraft kit would be really cool. I'm just not totally certain where to start. So that's something that I'm excited about. I've got on my Christmas wish list a couple like Mora knives and also a backpacking saw and things that I can start doing a little bit more bushcraft type stuff as well. How is the stream going, guys? Is it still buffering a lot? Any better? What are you experiencing on your end? The 5 C's of survival: cutting, cordage, container, combustion, cover. I like it. It's good stuff. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. It took a minute to get the kinks out of this, but I seriously appreciate you guys hanging out and watching. So, some of the things while I'm waiting for other questions. Well, I guess here's a question: what is my preferred firearm on the trail? That's a good question because I actually just went to a gun store today, and I am super excited about a Glock 43 that I'm going to be purchasing here fairly soon. And I found out that I can order that in a gray frame. So that is what will be my preferred firearm. But right now, what I carry is a Car CW380. And I love it because it's super tiny and it's really easy to pack in my ribs front pack, which is my preferred method of carrying a firearm when I'm backpacking. So yeah, the Car CW 380. I know that a 380 is a controversial uh, cartridge to carry in the first place, but I don't have a problem carrying it, and I think it's effective enough to be able to protect me the way that I feel I need to. Um, do I do a lot of DIY gear? No, I don't. There was a while back that I was planning to do a DIY tarp, but it kind of just became this burden of planning. And as I read about it, I couldn't really decide that going through with it was going to be beneficial or really a cost savings because I found, and this is like another thing that was given to me for reviewing purposes, but the Perea Outdoor Products Sanctuary Seal Tarp is $80, and it's a 8x10 flat tarp. Super cool product, and it comes with all the cordage and the stakes to stake it down. And one of the cool things about the Perea product is I took it out for testing, and that the owner or the guy that I've been working with in that company, I told him that he really ought to sew on a couple more guy out points to make it a little more versatile. And it's exactly what he did. He took the information, added to it, and the feedback was taken. So I didn't see a need to go ahead and move through the process of doing a DIY tarp. Wilderness Outfitters channel for bushcraft stripe survival. Is that what you're suggesting? Let's see. Who are some of my favorite YouTubers or blogs to follow? So I mentioned this like 15 minutes ago or so when the stream is going. Awesome. Thanks. So I did a collaboration with a bunch of my favorite YouTube channels. So if you haven't watched those videos, seriously go watch those. Who I collaborated with. Hold on, I think we're lagging again. Sorry. So the collaboration was with Tim Watson and Corbin with the Wasatch Gear Review, Utah Steve Outdoors, Rev Hiker, and Jack's Drinkwater. So those were kind of the five channels that I spend the most time watching, aside from some of the bigger channels like Syntax 77 or the Late Boy Scout. I don't subscribe to him because I don't always love his content, but Nuttin' Fancy is a channel that I do enjoy watching, even though the guy is like totally way too into himself and thinks he is the most important person in the world. All right, sorry. This streaming thing, it's exciting. So here's a question: how did you get into ultralight? Um, Really, the ultralight thing came from me simply in the need for a challenge in my backpacking. I went on a backpacking trip. This was it April, and my pack for a 4-day trip ended up being like sub 40 pounds, which was way too much. Like, once I got done with that trip, it's like I'm never carrying on that length of trip in the summer a 40-pound bag ever again. So I started looking at a lot of things. In fact, Rev Hiker is somebody that I spent a lot of time looking at things that he does to do ultralight, because he like goes super ultralight. He carries a lumbar pack, which is really cool. And so I just really wanted to save a bunch of weight by going ultralight and not having to carry that much crap on my back. And then the follow-up question, how did you get into bushcraft? So bushcraft is kind of a new thing for me. It's not something that I've ever really been interested in. I have been backpacking for a really long time. As long as I can remember, at least 10 years old was probably the first time I went backpacking. So about 20 years-ish of backpacking experience. Bushcraft is just something recently, because of YouTube, that has gotten me interested in bushcraft. So I'm reading comments at the same time, so my thought process is getting a little screwed up. But yeah, bushcraft is just something new for me that I'm interested in. What knife do I EDC and my flashlight? So what I have on me right now is my mini Griptilian with a serrated blade. This is the 555 version. So it's got the Spyderco style hole, sheep's foot blade. I work for an indoor climbing facility, and I thought that having the serrated blade was going to be a better option when I got this. So really love this knife. There are a ton of other knives that I have on the docket for plans to purchase. I do have a Kershaw Volt 2 that I carry on occasion as well, but this is basically my EDC that I use every single day. Love it. And then I am carrying, flashlight-wise, the new Thorfire PFO1S. Just a simple pen light, really cool. This is actually an upgrade to the original PFO1. I don't know how recently this was released, but it has like some new features to it that the PFO1 didn't have, like a memory mode, etc. So really cool light. In fact, I've got a review on this light uploading tomorrow night that you can check out on this as well. So I have a couple of lights that I'm interested in purchasing, but I also have a Phoenix E12. Lights are actually something pretty new to me, just in the sense that I haven't really cared to carry a light a lot. So just in the last few months has a light actually been part of like my everyday carry situation. Have I hiked through the AT, the CDT, or the PCT? No, I haven't. I have spent one day on the Appalachian Trail. There was a point about 8 years ago that I lived in New England and spent some time in Maine, and I was able to get out one day and go spend, it was like half hour is all, but I was able to spend some time on the Appalachian Trail that way. But no, I haven't done any backpacking or anything on the AT, the CTT, or the PCT. What is my major? So I attend Utah Valley University, and my major is outdoor recreation management. So hopefully I'll be graduating this summer. So should be good. Hold on one second. I'm gonna go grab some water. My mouth is super dry. So, a question about my favorites in terms of rock climbing gear, shoes, harnesses, etc. So, you must have heard that I do work for a rock climbing gym, and I am a huge fan of, as far as shoes are concerned, La Sportiva shoes and also Scarpa. Those are both shoes that I currently climb in, but probably my all-time favorite pair of climbing shoes is the Sportiva Katana, which unfortunately they have actually discontinued, which is a bummer. So what's on my Christmas list? Speaking of bushcraft, I have a lot of like bushcraft type things on there. I'm super interested in trying out and using the Mora Eldris knife, which is a neck knife that was just released, and I haven't owned a Mora knife before, which I feel like is a sin because they're so cheap and like a really high quality knife. So. Um, but then I've also got like a Sven saw, the 15-inch, and then a Silky Pocket Boy, which Strife, you can let me know if you think those are good options for moving kind of into the bushcraft type scenario. And then speaking of watches, I have, since the question came up, I am really wanting an Apple Watch Series 2. So I've had my eye on some Suunto watches for a while, and even looked at what is it, the Garmin Sapphire. Don't remember the exact name, but that's watches haven't ever really been something I'm super interested in. So hopefully at some point in the next couple of months I'll get an Apple Watch. Just because I'm getting a new iPhone and I like Apple, and it just makes sense for me to get a watch, and especially now that the Apple Watch has GPS. So I am not familiar with what the G-Shock. Oh, a G-Shock watch, the Golfmaster. Cool. I'm gonna look into that. Yeah, the G-Shock watches aren't something that I am really familiar with, to be honest. So, yeah, the Mora Eldris is something that has like one of those knives that got me interested in bushcraft. Once I saw that it had been announced and was being released, it was like, okay, people are paying attention to this. I should check it out, and that was kind of one of the things that helped me get into bushcraft. The other thing too was I follow Blade HQ. Which oddly enough, like Blade HQ literally is back door to back door of my work. So I can go to that place anytime and just look at all kinds of knives. But they posted a photo of the Bradford Guardian 3, and that is a fixed blade knife that I really, really, really want, and know that it will make doing bushcraft type things pretty awesome. I think it'll be a cool knife. It's just so expensive. So, what else you got? Any other questions? Mr. Strife Survival is asking all the questions here. I know he's doing it to occupy time, but I'm having a lot of fun with this, guys. I hope you guys are too. We'll go for another like 15 minutes or so, and then maybe I'll schedule another one of these. Who knows? But this has been a lot of fun. A little bit of hiccups here and there. So somebody's asking, why do I carry a firearm? That is a really good question. I've been carrying a firearm for the last 2.5 years, and my whole purpose for carrying it is that it is my American right to do so, and I believe in the Second Amendment, and I also believe heavily in my right to protect myself and my family. Now, with that said, I am not the kind of person that is like a doomsday prepper type person. I simply believe that in the event that somebody is threatening my life, I should be able to defend myself. And um, I hope that never happens. I really, I mean, what other kind of practical reasons are you looking for? But um, I it just comes down to the fact that I feel like I have the right to defend myself, and nobody should be able to attack me simply because they whatever. You get my point. Um, so, do I ever hunt? No, I don't hunt. In fact, it's not something that I am super interested in. I've got a friend that keeps asking me to go hunt coyotes, and but it just hasn't happened. So Julius is asking, says this winter will be my first for winter hiking in the 80K. Is that the Adirondacks? He says I purchased a Solomon -40, but worried they're too stiff. High top. Oh, the shoes. So my preference for shoes, I have a really narrow foot, and yes, Chris, bears are a concern. In fact, I will tell that story here in just a second. Let me answer the shoe question. So my preference, I have really narrow feet, and so my preference is the La Sportiva shoes. I don't wear boots anymore unless it is winter hiking, but I use the La Sportiva ECO or Echo, the high tops, and they're a waterproof Gore-Tex boot, really awesome. And yeah, that's really the only boot that I've had most recently. So that is my preference. So the Bears question. Two stories real quick. In the Uinta Mountains here in Utah, you get a lot of different types of people on the trails, and depending on where you're at, that is obviously much higher volume and access and such. So last year I went on a solo overnight trip, and at dusk there are some beaver ponds about 200 yards up from where I was camping, and I decided, well, it's dusk, the chance of me seeing some wildlife is pretty high. So I had my firearm with me and started walking up the trail, and noticed that there was a moose feeding in one of the beaver ponds. And I had my dog with me, and he was off leash, and he typically is off leash unless it's a requirement to have him on a leash. And I got a little bit closer to the moose than I should have, and the moose kind of got spooked, and he turned his whole body, faced me, and started walking towards me. And that is actually the only time I have ever pulled my gun from the holster, because I absolutely felt like I needed to potentially fire a round into the air to hopefully scare that moose. So, but another reason that I carry in the backcountry is I had a run-in with a drunk. I was like 5 miles in on the trail, and good questions. So I was like 5 miles on the trail. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning-ish, and I hear my tent being unzipped. And next thing I know, there is a hand like reaching into my tent, fishing around, trying to grab for things. And this was like over 10 years ago. It was maybe 12 years ago that this happened. And that was one of the scariest encounters that I've had in the backcountry ever. So never seen a bear in the backcountry. They're not common here in Utah, so it's not like California or anything where you have that. So question of what's in my first aid kit? Just basic stuff. I really don't carry a robust first aid kit. That might change. I'm doing my wilderness first responder certification here in a couple months, which I have to do for school as part of the outdoor recreation management program. And but really, I just carry like a standard first aid kit that anybody else carries. Some of my scratch meals, non-mountain house style. It's funny that you asked that because I actually really don't like mountain house meals. The last time I had one was I don't even remember. It's been that long. And so I like to cook a lot of things. Calzones are probably one of my favorite things to do from scratch because you can do a really quick bread of just flour and some salt and baking powder, and you just mix that up in a Ziploc bag with water, and then you can drop that into a frying pan. You can make dumplings that way. But I love to take like pepperoni and dry pizza sauce and do a like calzone. It's a really easy backpacking meal. You can do macaroni and cheese, really simple from scratch. A lot of my like from scratch experience comes from the Noles Cookery, so you should check that out if you haven't. Yes, moose can be, oh gosh, like I've seen way more moose this year out on the trail than like ever before. It's crazy. Do I solo mostly? No. In fact, I do very few solo trips. Um, this trip that I'm going on, this overnighter at the end of the year, yes, that will be a solo trip. But most of the time, I don't. I don't really go on a solo trip. It was my repair kit. I just carry patches and stuff for like my. Aside from like a little bit of duct tape, I'll carry patches and whatnot for my sleeping pad. But aside from that, I don't really carry a repair kit, or at least a robust one. Remember, I try to go ultralight and save a bunch of things. So Badger Backpacking says, "Have you hiked Little Cottonwood?" I haven't done any backpacking there. Little Cottonwood, I am way more familiar with the bouldering and the climbing aspect. But I've done a bit of hiking around there. I've hiked up to like Red Pine Lakes. In fact, I've like bouldered at Red Pine Lake. And then the goal this summer was with my daughter before she turned 1 in October to summit as many 11,000 foot peaks as we could with her. But it was a little more difficult than and a little more ambitious than we had planned on. And so we didn't really get that. Yeah, I can do a video on calzones. In fact, that's part of it's on the plan. So I will do a food video, and it is the Noles NOLS, the National Outdoor Leadership School Cookery. So, how much water do you burn through, say, per hour? Dude, it totally matters. Like, depends on where I'm at and the elevation gain, just what the situation is. But I typically will go through about what I try to do, honestly, is because your body, from what I understand, can only absorb about 200 milliliters every 20 minutes. So I try to not drink more water than that, even though I might feel thirsty. Otherwise, I'm just peeing like crazy, and it's not. It seems like a waste of water for me. Yeah, Noles. If you've heard of Outward Bound, Noles is another school like Outward Bound. As a beginner, do you recommend starting with a tent or a hammock? It just depends on what your preference is, honestly. My quick answer would be that just do a tent. It's simple, and depending, I don't know where you're located, but a hammock is not always a viable option for me. especially when I go down into the desert of southern Utah. I can't set up a hammock. A lot of times I will tarp tent or use a tarp or a tent in the desert. So it's totally up to you. I mean, you could just, as a beginner, start out hammock camping and it not being an issue at all. Nature Calls, yes, the Noles Cookery. It is a book. Jump on Amazon, and it's got a bunch of information. The most important thing about the Noles Cookery, though, is that the whole premise of what the cookery is based around is group cooking from scratch. So they use a bulk ration system. So it's something that you kind of have to change and improvise and work on for yourself. But there's a lot of really good recipes in there. Another good place to get recipes is backpacker.com. That's a great place. Any plans to do the AT or the PCT? Yeah, I would seriously love to do both of those. The AT is something that I am super interested in. I don't honestly know that it is going to happen in the near future, just because I have a young family. I have a 1-year-old plus another daughter on the way that's due in March. So through hiking is not something that is on the immediate future plans. But I would like to do at least the John Muir Wilderness. I know that's just a section of the PCT, but that is something I would love to do. Oh, Badger, you're totally welcome. Hopefully the collaboration was beneficial. Yeah. Trekking poles. So I've had a lot of experience with trekking poles recently. Some brands have sent me poles, and the type of poles that you use totally depends on what your preference is. Now, my favorite poles right now are the Perea Outdoor Products trifold poles. They're lightweight, they are super strong, and really comfortable and easy to use. But the problem with the trifold collapsible pole is if you are going to be using them as a tarp to set up a tarp, man, I can't talk. You lose the ability for adjustment because you're going to get basically a fixed height, and then you'll have the adjustment for added height on top of that. You'll want a 3-piece pole that collapses into itself if you want to have more versatility in adjustment if you're using it for a tarp. So trekking poles, really, like a trekking pole is a trekking pole. So it's not something that you need to spend a lot of money on. I have a pair of black diamond poles that are way too expensive, and they're awesome, but the Perea poles are fantastic as well. I have poles from Wildhorn Outfitters, another a Utah-based company that are awesome as well. You can check out, I have a review of both of those poles on my channel, so you should check those out. Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to keep the family growing. Let's see. Yeah, MSR and GSI both have great recipes. I would expect them to, just because they provide cooking equipment, so it's an important thing. Oh, Devin, outdoors, awesome. Doing the PCT in April. That's awesome. You'll have to let me know how it goes. I'm jealous. Let's see. Alcohol, butane, wood, none. What is your pleasure? So this is something that I wanted to cover in case people weren't asking questions. I have always been a canister stove person, and with this YouTube channel thing, I have ventured out into a lot of different options, and I tried alcohol, and I don't love alcohol. It's too finicky and requires too much attention. And there's not a lot of versatility besides boiling water with it. I do like how lightweight it is, but it's not my favorite. On my Christmas wish list, I have the Firebox Nano. as something that I'm hoping I will get, which I'm excited to be trying because wood is something that I'm interested in. So lots of different options for stoves that I'm interested in right now. Moved from Utah to live in Colorado Springs. Awesome. Badger, you'll have to send me an email. Send me an email to backcountryexposure@gmail.com and let me know when you're coming, and I can give better recommendations on places to go in the spring, because it depends on in the springtime when you're going to come, because the snow and where you're going to be visiting as well. Yeah, the Lakey poles are a better warranty. The Black Diamond has really stood behind their product as well a lot recently. So yeah, both the Black Diamond and the Lakey poles are really good, but they're just so expensive. I can't get past the price. And Strife is saying that Fox Hilly has a good pair of carbon poles. In fact, Fox Hilly, I contacted them and they actually sent me a pair of their carbon fiber poles. And I'm really excited about those. I'm going to be taking those on my overnight trip here pretty soon, and use them as like a snow option with the baskets and see how they go. So yeah, you don't have to spend a lot of money on poles, especially like carbon fiber ones. For $80 is really cheap. The Perea Outdoor Products, they also have a carbon fiber with aluminum ends that are like $55 or something. Yeah, the Vargo Hexagon is a stove that I've looked at, but from everything that I've read and watched videos on, and just people's preference, the Firebox stove seems to be kind of the go-to for wood burning. So, do I have a goal when I hike? Mileage, altitude, destination views, nature watching? You know, it totally depends on situation. Like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, I had plans to do all of the 11,000 foot peaks here in the Wasatch Range of Utah with my daughter. And at that time, that was like the ultimate goal. Everything we did was to gain as much elevation as we could, because a lot of those peaks are over 4,000 to 5,000 feet of elevation gain from the trailhead. So it just depends where I'm going and what I'm interested in. Did I cover my base weight already? No. In fact, that's going to change depending on where I'm going. But if you reference back to my 11-pound lightweight backpacking gear list, that'll give you an idea of the gear that I take out with me. Yeah, on the Vargo Hex, the airflow is something that I've read that's an issue. So, yeah, the Firebox is something that I'm really excited about. Not about me. Hey, I'm happy to do it. This was something that I'm excited about. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. So. Badger has another question. I'll take a couple more questions, and then I am going to go spend the rest of the night with my family, since we've been doing this for about an hour. What temp do you recommend to not go below in a 3-season tent for winter camping? That totally depends on your whole like gear setup. A 3-season tent really is a 3-season tent, and what you're going to deal with is condensation. And you could potentially have ice buildup inside of the tent because of the airflow, not having really good airflow, but also the hot air from your breath is going to create a lot of condensation in the tent, and also ice. So I wouldn't go below like 20 degrees probably at the lowest, but yeah, if you're going to be doing winter camping, plan on a 4-season tent. Like, just invest in a 4-season tent. You'll be a lot more comfortable. Cool. Any other last questions, guys? If not, we're gonna move on. And is this something I should do again, like in another month or so? Maybe after I get back from that overnight trip that I do. What camera do I use? I actually have it on the table right here. So I upgraded recently to the Canon G7X Mark II. And I was going to do a Sony A6000 or A6300, but the Canon G7X is what I've been using. Really, really like this camera. It's phenomenal. So everything that I've posted in the last at least dozen plus videos has been filmed on that camera. So cool, guys. Yeah, I think that's it for the Q&A. I think next time I will do probably a more specific type of conversation, now that I know that people are actually interested in. The Outdoor Outcast, yeah, I will definitely check your channel out. Please, like, share the channel with your friends that are into backpacking. I hate to like self-promote, but my channel growing keeps me motivated to keep sharing these videos and to get out and to film. It's a lot of work, but I definitely appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys hanging out, asking questions, and spending some time with me. This is a lot of fun. I definitely will do this again. So yeah, I'll give it a couple seconds, see if anybody has any last minute questions, but if not, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for asking your questions. I do have a review of the PF01S from Thorfire uploading tomorrow night. If you haven't checked out the collaboration video that uploaded yesterday, check that out. Follow the other channels on that. Those are all channels that I really like. So thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'll say thank you one more time. So have an awesome night.